Hi guys, happy Saturday. So, alright, we're gonna jump right back into the Children of Cain, and as we get more into it, as I get more into the book, it is extremely taking a turn, so it's just really different, so, alright. Now, so the circle was cast by driving a stang or ritual knife into the earth and tying a cord to it. So at the other end of this was attached a second knife. By keeping the cord taut, a circle could be then inscribed upon the ground. That does work too. It works really well. So, now a moat, or a moat or a ditch was then dug around the circle and filled with wood, ash, vinegar, wine, and water. What, really? Why? So the guardians, or shining ones, were then summoned, and the fairy hounds of the wild hunt were called to patrol the outside of the circle as guardians or protectors. So finally the Lady of the Night and the old lords of hill and mound were invited to attend and witness the rites. So power was raised by the coven dancing around a central fire, and they also performed a form of silent meditation by pacing around the circle in silence, which we did cover that in Gary's books, which is amazing. So in the first edition of his book, Western Inner Traditions, published by Wiser Books in the USA, Bill Gray gives a rather romantic description of Cochrane's coven as he experienced it as a guest. So he says it was led by a master and a mistress, magister and magistra, met on hilltops and the dark of the room of the moon in honor of the goddess of life, death, and wisdom, and cast the circle in Witterson's direction. So the group practiced magical workings for both healing and cursing, and the former, the leader, would take on the illness in his body and banishing it. So they celebrated the four major festivals as feasts and called them by their Christianized names. So, and this was Candlemas, Beltane, Lammas, and Hallows. So at these meets, the master presided over the rites, wearing a mask, presumably I don't know what that is. Representing the devil or horn god of the witches. So, alright. Now, a blessing prayer was also performed, in which the human face was imagined to be fully face of the green man, and a special prayer was recited. Now, although significantly, Gray considered that the group was following an authentic form of the old medieval witch cult. So, I'm kind of wondering myself now, after reading more and more. So, he also said that they had taken on board more sophisticated occult philosophies, such as the Jewish Kabbalah, which is very strange. So the rites of the coven ended with the traditional Huzel, or sacramental communion, and that is, Huzel is Cornish, so that's a Cornish term for the communion, or sacramental communion, when those present were offered cakes and wine. So it was important that the light of the moon was reflected in the wine that filled the horn cup. So to achieve this effect, the maid held a small mirror to catch the moonlight and reflect it on the surface of the wine. That in itself just sounds romantic. It does. To me it does. So while she was doing this, the coven paced around her 9 times. The magister then stepped forward with a lantern held aloft in his left hand, and the ritual knife in his right, and he ritually sharpened the blade of the knife on the whetstone, and stirred the wine with it 3 times. So he used it to sprinkle drops of the liquid at the 4 corners of the circle. A charm was then spoken based on one used by the 17th century Scottish witch, Isabel Gowdy. I'm gonna say Gowdy. Sounds, I think maybe that's the right terminology, the way to say her name. So this referred to the sending forth of the witch's fetch, which is your astral double or your spirit body. So from her being in animal form. Now finally the magister kissed the maid, drank from the cup, and passed it around. A platter of small spice cakes, ooh, that sounds really good, spice cakes. Anyways, or homemade bread was blessed and handed out. Sometimes a human skull cap was used as a drinking vessel. That would be, I don't know, different. The main ritual tools used in Cochrane's coven were the knife, staying sword, cauldron, cup, besom, stone, and a human skull. Yeah, okay. The knife represented the virile power of masculinity, the cutting the edge of the intellect, the strength of experience, wisdom, sexual love, conflict, and victory. The stang was made from ash wood and symbolized the world tree, or the tree of life, the whole old horn god as the king of the forest, and death and transformation. That just reminded me of the Cowardly Lion, in a good way. So it was forked at the top, obviously, to represent the horns of transformation, the horns of the god, and pointed at the other end so it could be placed upright in the ground. For this reason, the bottom was often shod with iron to protect it. Now, in the old days, a common or garden pitchfork, either wooden or with metal prongs, would be used. And I actually did find some of those in one of the garages that we have. Really, really interesting. So, even John Jones owned many examples of these that were used in his own coven in Sussex in the 1990s. When placed at the edge of the circle, the stang became a symbolic gateway or doorway, and a link between the spirit world and the realm of the goddess and the old gods, and the working space in the mortal world. So, however, at the Great Sabbats, it was stood in the north, or it was moved around the circle or the compass's points. So traditionally, the stang was a garland with the relevant seasonal flowers and foliage, and etc., etc. So of that festival, so at Candlemas, it was either left bare or decorated with ivy and snowdrops. How would you do that? That would be really interesting to see. That'd be really pretty. It would be just an altar in itself right there. How would you do snowdrops? To represent new life. On May Eve, it was garland with hawthorn blossoms, hazel, birch, and willow, while at Lammas Tide, it was wheat ears, red poppies, and bindweed. So finally, at Hallows, or Samhain, yew and elderberries were used. I love that. Now, when the sacrificial death of the priest king, or god, was remembered and honored by the clan, the stang became the altar of sacrifice. Okay, so that makes sense. Or the Teu cross, or Kerm oak, upon which the body of the chosen one hanged. So crossed arrows and a sickle were added to the skull and crossbones at the base. So this kind of reminds me of Lesantissima Muerte in a way, with her skull, her skith, all that. So this recalls the myth of the sacrificed god and ancient times when the divine king suffered threefold death. So he was both shot with arrows, strangled, and had his throat cut. Beautiful. So the blood flowed into the ground and was drowned. So after his death, his body was dismembered and then buried in the four corners of his kingdom. Now, as Evan John Jones said, it reminds us that the old craft stems from a past that was primitive, dark, and bloody, and very much different to suburban Wicca of today. So today there is no place for such atavistic or atavitic practices in the craft, and while the symbolism of sacrifice remains an important one, it is only considered in terms of its esoteric significance. So no, it's not ever, that's not done today, whatever anybody tells you. Each traditional coven, though, according to John Jones, was supposed to own a sword that was in the guardianship of the male leader. Its hilt was shaped like the hand of fate, with its one finger pointing, and it was a symbol of a divine justice. It was sometimes used to draw the circle and to put people under the ban, i.e. banish them from the coven or traditions or for wherever transgressions. So when not used, it was placed downwards with its blade in the earth. Sometimes it was pierced through the skull downward with its blade in the earth. Ooh. Oh, wait. Oh, at the end of a ritual or magical working in order to ground the magical energies that had been raised. Alright, so that makes more sense. Now, in modern traditional witchcraft, the cauldron is the vessel of rebirth and the womb of creation that brought forth the gods and humankind. It was also the famous cauldron of inspiration associated with the Welsh witch Saturn, and such is a symbol of initiation into the mysteries and the spiritual transformation that comes from it. So much information. I mean, there's so much. It's amazing. Alright, now Robert Cochrane saw the craft as a mystical mystery cult concerned with the pursuit of wisdom, knowledge, and truth. Wisdom was the reward that spirit gained in the search for knowledge. Therefore, the spiritual quest was the means by which humankind could strive to overcome the control of the gods and fate. So this could be achieved like the dwarf Gwayan Bach did by stealing the Awen, or the drop of divine inspiration from the cauldron of Saturn in the Welsh legend. In another metaphorical sense, it was symbolized by the Promethean theft of fire from heaven and the fall of Lucifer to earth. So yeah, it's just, why am I flashing? Let me get a little closer. There we go. Alright, so now, I like that. Now, in ancient times, so we have the cord. Now, the cord was another sacrificial tool. It was the garrote, noose, or halter used to send sacrificial victims to meet the goddess of death. So the famous Iron Age bog bodies found preserved in peat all over northern Europe had a cord tied around their neck, indicating that they were human sacrifices to the earth goddess. That's insane. No thank you. Now, on the physical level, it is the umbilical cord, so cut at birth when we incarnate on Middle Earth, and spiritually it is the silver thread that breaks at death to separate the soul from the body. So the cord is ultimately a sign of the subjugation of the witch to the craft and the power of fate during his or her life incarnated in the mortal world. So that's pretty interesting. That is really interesting. That's really something to think about too, especially with cord magic right now. Alright, let me mark this so I do not forget where I am. Alright, so the besom, or the broomstick, is next. But yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah. I don't know, last night I came to some profound something, and everything just kind of clicked more, and it just kind of made more sense to me, and I loved it. I loved it. It just made more sense to me. Like, it just, I don't know how to describe that feeling of what it felt. I don't know how it even felt. But it was amazing. It was like, yes, you are on the right path. Keep going, keep doing what you're doing. Okay, had to write that down. Napkin's getting full. I do not want to tap that cord because it will make my camera go off. But anyways. So yeah, what do you guys think? I don't know. I mean, I guess it just depends on, I wasn't alive when Robert Cochrane was. Far from it. So I guess I would actually have to practice something of his, put it to practice, test it, and see if it worked. So, I mean, if it does work and it produces results, then it's something of worth, of value to us. So I can't really dismiss all of his stuff right now, but pretty much his, claim of a family heritage, a tradition of witches, him coming from it, far-fetched. But maybe he did it for a reason, to cover something up, or just to make himself look better. I don't know. Maybe people wouldn't follow his path if he didn't do something of, such a thing. Alright, guys. So, I'm not sure about him, but, so yesterday in chat, the live chat, I had somebody ask me how to start out doing videos, how to start out doing readings, and etc., etc. I don't know. I don't know. I will have to think about that. I will actually have to do some research to pull stuff out of my brain and write it all down, and then I will actually have to do a scripted video of that on how I started, because I have no clue. I have no idea how this even came about now. So I will do that for you guys. Ouija sessions are coming Monday. Yeah, definitely Monday. The hands, yes, perfect, better. All the medicine's working, and I'm very, very happy about that. So, but alright guys, I'll see you all tomorrow for Sundays with Satan. If you're trying to get a hold of me on Twitter, I am banned on Twitter for 11 more hours, because I ran my mouth. It was worth it though. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow. So I love you all the way from, my chair is squeaking, Venus, all the way back down. There, it stopped. And I love you guys, and please be safe. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow.